Who are we thinking?
Here.
She leaving? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a whiteboard.
Yeah.
Bill. I'm waiting.
We're just looking to sit next to Grace.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, 26 years.
Well, you have a little bit of a hit. I don't know how you guys. Oh, yeah. I remember all that.
Not on purpose. He just came back from Colorado.
I get it.
Yeah, that's what. That's what.
How you doing up there, Kevin?
I'm good.
Good.
The same card you got.
Oh.
Did you explain?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm thinking wrong.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
Not Teen Louise.
Yep.
That is a.
You get big one for them. I was hoping for one of those. We're all ready. I don't know if it's long, but they got it.
2 minutes.
Bend it all.
What's for dinner tonight?
I don't know, we prefer to go to 2 o'clock in the morning, so we don't do dinner.
To wait for breakfast.
Yeah.
That's how them big city boys.
No, that's straight.
Up the road.
That's what we've always thought of ourselves.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're there. I'd like to call the board of supervisors to order. Let's do the pledge of allegiance.
Turn us off.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you.
We do have a forum, we do need to adopt an agenda. The only one that I'd like to move around is I'd like to put public comment before 1 and 2. Anybody else have anything we need to add?
Mr. Joe, the resolution of Terry.
Yeah, let's put that as 8A.
8A.
Yeah, under new business. Oh, is there anything we need to add to this? Just, and it has been modified, so I guess we should adopt a modified amended. Anybody else have anything?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the modified amended agenda.
Second.
Motion's made, seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Before we get going too far, one, I'd like to welcome Ms. Fry back. Glad to see you. And the other one, Livingston got married on Saturday, so.
Aww.
Sorry, Livingston.
There's no flaw.
We're really glad to see Ms. Fry. All right, public comment.
May I?
Wait in line,
Okay.
you're next.
My name is Chris Artelli. I live in Aroda. I've been a resident of Madison County since 1982. My wife's family's been here for generations. My children were born and raised here and attended Madison County Public Schools, and I work here as well. Thank you for supporting and adopting the Second Amendment Sanctuary Resolution last November, and for considering the resolution not to create local gun control. I strongly support both resolutions. Gun-free zones elicit a false sense of security. They're not actually gun-free. I prefer to call them gun-restricted zones because they only restrict law-abiding citizens from access to firearms, and they do nothing to keep criminals from possessing guns. To truly have a gun-free zone, you need security perimeter that is secure and controlled access with metal detectors, law enforcement, or other security personnel. It makes no sense to me how some folks believe that disarming law-abiding citizens can create greater security when the evidence shows that gun-free zones attract atrocity. Please consider the following. Over 90% of public mass shootings occur in gun-free zones. Criminals do not obey the law, so an ordinance will have no effect on criminals with guns. Law-abiding citizens will not be able to defend themselves, their family, or anyone else. The only guns carried in gun-free zones are the ones carried by criminals. I'll close by recounting two similar incidents with very different outcomes. On November 5th, 2017, a criminal entered the First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, Texas, and killed 26 people and wounded 20 more during a mass shooting. This was the 5th deadliest mass shooting in the United States. The parishioners were unarmed and unable to defend themselves, and they were slaughtered. At the time, Texas law prohibited carrying firearms in churches, synagogues, and places of worship. In 2019, Texas realized the inherent problem with their law and changed the law to allow firearms to be carried in places of worship. On December 29, 2019, a criminal entered the West Freeway Church of Christ in White Settlement, Texas, and shot 2 people. Within 6 seconds, he was shot by 71-year-old Jack Wilson, a law-abiding, responsible gun owner and part of the church security team. 5 or 6 other church members had drawn their weapons and were ready to respond. The criminal shot and killed 2 parishioners, and that is tragic, but the outcome could have been much worse. 250 people were inside the church, and we do not know how many would have died had armed citizens not been able to defend themselves. Jack Cummings, the minister of the church, said, quote, "They saved a lot of lives today because this thing would have been a massacre otherwise." Rick Farmer, the church's senior minister, said, quote, "We lost 2 great men today. It could have been a lot worse. I'm thankful that our government has allowed us the opportunity to protect ourselves," unquote. I strongly urge you to adopt this resolution, and I urge you not to create gun-free zones. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Joe Knight?
Yes, sir. I'm from Edmond, Joe May. I really want the school system to reopen. My wife and I employ a woman. Every 2 weeks, she comes in and cleans our house. She brings her 5th grader with her. Sometimes he goes into the swimming pool. Sometimes he just stays upstairs and watches TV. They live in Edmond. There's no internet. It's like my wife and I spend $85 a month on HughesNet. You can barely stream a YouTube. Most of that $85 goes for her to shop. I mean, it's that bad. I do not know how you think that the majority of the people, the parents in Madison County, who can't even afford to feed their children, you see those lines pulling up for the food at the schools, they can't afford internet, and it wouldn't work for them anyway. What's the point? You know, if these people don't want to teach, furlough them, retire them, let them stay home, what have you. But this system ain't gonna work, and you're gonna lose, what, 1, 2 years of education in a county that can't afford that. You know, give these children an opportunity to at least get an education, get in the military, get out of here, get a career going. What else are they gonna do? Become a carpenter, maybe a home builder? How many homes are built in Madison? You know, something's gotta be done. And I wanna see you guys claw money back from the school system. Like, remember the 200 grand on computers? You know, I just don't see these people pulling up in their 20-year-old vehicles outside the library and the schools, no air conditioning, and hanging out for 3 hours, which is basically what you got. And it is nice to see this Friday. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment? Other public comment? Livingston, we got anybody on? Steve Ball.
Anybody here that doesn't know me? Steve Hoffman, I live across from the Catholic Church over Brightwood. I'd like to speak about firearms on public property. As I probably told you before, I've been a firearms instructor for about 35 years as a circuit court judge. I worked for the Sheriff's Department until retirement. I was a senior instructor for the Virginia Game Commission. And I can tell you there are probably more carry permits in Madison County than any one single place in America. I don't look at what I'm fixing to speak about as so much argument for guns or gun control or wherever you stand. My personal opinion is everybody ought to have one and know how to use it. But I realize that that's not going to happen. But I look at this as a matter of trust. Madison County property that's held in the public trust, after all, was paid for by citizens of Madison County. After all, a good job you do or don't do, you don't have any money of your own. You only have our money. If you can trust all these people who have guns in Madison County to act responsible on their own property, I would suggest to you that you can trust these people to act responsible on public property. I could look around this room and I can spot some carry permit holders. And quite frankly, in law enforcement, the more people who had carry permit that were around me and things went bad, I've never been threatened, never felt threatened by somebody who had a carry permit. So I'd urge you to look at this as a board of supervisors having trust in its citizens to act responsibly on their own property as well as on county-owned property. Thank you.
Are you running for office again?
Well, won't say yes, won't say no.
There you go, there you go. That's the way to
Depends on
get
how many of y'all don't run.
it. Other public comment. Livingston, we got anything on our digital feeds?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, we'll do public comment again at the end.
The first topic we have on our agenda this evening is consideration of a resolution articulating Madison County's current position on local regulation or prohibition of legal purchase, possession, or transfer of firearms and ammunition. Mr. Artelli sent one to me. We've kind of taken it and put it into our own firm. Greg, do you have any comments about this?
I think it's, if the board is inclined to pass it, the board can certainly has the right to pass it.
Do we have any comments on it? The resolution says it's a resolution declaring the intent of the Board of Supervisors on authority granted to it by 15.2-915E of the Code of Virginia to regulate or prohibit otherwise legal purchase, possession, or transfer of firearms or ammunition. Bill, one day.
I got no problem with it, Mr. Chairman.
Well, let me be everybody's waiting for me to, I'm sure, to weigh in. I don't really have any problem in the gist of it. I particularly think that last paragraph nails it, and that's all that I really feel. In fact, I don't need a resolution to tell me that I don't want to establish gun-free zones, and that I'm not interested in exercising any authority granted to us by the code section. But I don't know what kind of message it sends. Yeah, I would guess the vast majority of Madison is fine with this resolution. But for some people, it sends a message that they're not that happy with, and some of the people live in my house. And we've had people, and just to speak to what happens when we support things and what we stir up or even imply support of. We've had very passionate people speak to us about a lot of the things that Mr. Artelli spoke about. And certainly we've heard most of those, if not all of those arguments before. We've had those same people go to Richmond and stir things up and go in with tactical gear and body armor and weapons, and all of a sudden they went from the same, giving us the same message to being what and then the Twitter for Richmond police is saying, this is your militia from Madison, and that's embarrassing to me. I don't know that that's a great image for everybody in Madison to portray. And so if, I don't know where Tracy stands on this, but how many people are saying, well, that's not somewhere I'm going to stay in an Airbnb, if that's what the kind of behavior they're going to promote. So I have no trouble with not having gun-free zones, and no trouble with not doing anything to exercise the authority granted to us. And just before it comes up, I also don't have any inclination to do anything to any Confederate monuments, but I can see another resolution coming to us about that. I just don't need resolutions to tell me to do the right thing. So, and despite the fact that I support the intent, I'm not going to support the resolution.
That's pretty well articulated. I think that both Chris's comments and Steve's comments are the ones that kind of resonate with me. The trust of legal, responsible gun ownership in Madison County. I mean, we talked to Ms. Lout and Ms. Barry back here, and they've been flooded with them recently.
I probably signed 15 more today.
There you go. Good, and that proves that we do have a responsible base of citizens. I mean, there are background checks, and I'm sure there's a whole set of protocols that go. What protocols?
So, I mean, for those of you who don't know, you go to the clerk's office, drop off your application. I think it's $58. It's free if you're a county employee. It gets
The benefits.
All right. Before I get a line roll with you all, go ahead.
You have a background check done by Major Jenkins, and he makes any observations that he sees on the incredibly rare occasion that Mr. Jenkins doesn't catch something, I'll catch something. We both write notes on it. Today, we had somebody that said they hadn't been convicted or had a deferred disposition of it. So we make a note of it, and the judge will take whatever action he thinks is appropriate. Sometimes, if it's a questionable case, it's denied on the petition, and we have a hearing, and we had one probably 2 or 3 months ago, and the person was granted their permit. It's an easy to explain thing, just for you to do face to face. So there are quite a few checks and balances. There's a provision that the sheriff's office thinks that somebody is a danger and shouldn't have a concealed handgun permit thing, but that's also kind of a misnomer. It's not a concealed weapons permit. It's only a concealed handgun permit. So it doesn't apply to knives and, gosh, what else? Bows and arrows, I guess. Concealed ones. And so it only applies to handguns. And anyway, so the sheriff's office can come to me, we can write a letter to the court asking for something to be denied. We have done that once in 5 years. But there are quite a few safeguards and steps. Lots of people looking at these applications. The law is gonna change as of January 1st. We're gonna have to go to an in-person concealed weapons class. Right now, you're able to do it online. I would encourage anybody that's out there that's considering doing it to please go to one of the in-person classes. It is really the best way. I attended one of Mr. Hoffman's classes. I didn't have to. I used my hunter safety course to get a concealed weapons. I guess I don't actually have one, but I can have one. I have a badge. So, that's the way to do it, is to do it in person. Have somebody be able to go through it and talk over it. But it is a great thing that we citizens in Madison. I have looked at this a little bit from my perspective, from the criminal law perspective. Adopting one of these ordinances would just make something a class 1 misdemeanor. Almost anything that would cause concern to the public would be covered under. Brandishing, shooting in a public space, shooting into an occupied vehicle, shooting in an occupied vehicle, all of those things. Inciting a riot, and we could just go for 15 minutes, take the right. So I think that hopefully Mr. McGee will put some people in your house at ease. Even if we don't pass one of these ordinances, if something goes sideways, sure, there should be a way forward. Sorry.
But no, thank you very much, and Chuck, don't carry around or conceal your bow and arrow. Yes, ma'am.
How long is your hunter safety? How long is your hunter safety certificate?
Have you taken?
38 years ago.
You still have it, that's an accomplishment in and of itself.
So I just come to you.
This is going in an interesting direction. It is, I think, Steve, your comments are well placed. It's that we do have trust in our citizens, and they will act responsibly. We have confidence that they will. I don't have any hard time supporting this. I don't like seeing people pushed away, especially spending revenue here, doing business with us. Hopefully that won't come to fruition. I understand completely if you don't have a happy household, and it's not going to go well in the first place. There's lots of reasons, and you have Roger.
Well, I have great neighbors.
Yes, exactly. What would y'all like to do with this?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the resolution articulating Madison County's current position on local regulation or prohibition of legal purchase, possession, or transfer of firearms or ammunition as recommended by staff.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. You now have a resolution. Thank you. I really want to say something about the wake-up, but I tend to agree with your comments, and I think it reflects very positively on the people that have come here and spoken this evening. First, who is not here.
That's a good point.
All right. We do have a consent agenda. It has been modified. We have minutes from August 5th, August 11th. And we have some supplementals from Ms. Costello, minor departmental budget overages, school food additional federal funding, CARES Act contributions to SB for technology, approval of the FY20 year-end encumbrances of fund balance, supplemental reappropriation of FY20 encumbrances, and supplemental 21-9 reappointment of E911 next gen grant and carry forwards. Does anybody have anything we need to pull out of this consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Motion made, seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Special appearances, we do have, she is not here. Is she joining us? Livingston, is she joining Miss Carrie Shepard from VDOT?
She's on third meeting.
All right. Ms. Shepard from VDOT is going to talk to us about the discussion on proposed abandonment of 2 swinging bridges in Craigleyville. Ms. Shepard, welcome. She is muted currently, but we know that she is going to figure out how to unmute herself.
She did it.
Yeah, we got it. Go ahead, Ms. Shepard. Yes, ma'am. All right. Thank you, Ms. Shepard. Who has comments or thoughts on this? I know where both of them are.
I
Swam in the river where we drive across. I would actually consider that almost a recreational area. I know the kids are down there all the time. The one that's a little bit farther up, I guess that's across from basically across
the church.
Yeah, exactly. That one I don't know if people use very often. I just don't know. Understand that, well, it's been educational to know that VDOT takes care of footbridges over rivers. Yeah, sort of, that's correct. I mean, I don't know. I'm not real keen on getting rid of a swinging bridge.
No,
You get one bridge engineer that sees the one there at the Ford.
All right.
Lindsay
About
Lindsay Lane,
Lindsay
yeah.
Lane about every 3 weeks. Because I use it.
Oh,
And but I don't inspect it. But yeah, the other one, I don't know when anybody has used it. A big dog chased me across it about 5 years ago. And that's the last time I've been on that bridge. And it's just not, it's just that there at the ford, there's no other way to cross on foot. Down at the other end, what is that? Quaker Run?
Just before Quaker Run.
Yeah, it's just before Quaker Run, but if you want to get across the river there on foot without getting wet, you've got the bridge onto Quaker Run. But yeah, of the two of them, I don't know if it's worth. I would love to know if anybody else is using it, but Kevin uses it for.
Oh,
Now you escape me
What would you have
going.
done if it wasn't there? I mean, good lord.
I don't know. I usually have more trouble with dogs following me home and chasing me. So I don't worry too much about that. But the one bridge has been convenient for years now for that once a month run up Lindsay and over to Ayler and back. But if I'm the only person, I'll find some other way to get across the river.
I see pictures all the time.
I was gonna say,
I'm glad to see it. I mean, I like some
Yeah.
kids out there. That type of stuff, you know.
Do we have, how much it would cost to rehabilitate? We don't have that price.
Ms. Shepherd, how much to rehabilitate one of the bridges at Lindsay?
And maybe for both, and then we can talk to citizens who live around those two areas.
You hear that, Ms. Shepherd? There you go.
Are they dangerously?
Are they?
Critical, I mean.
Are they real dangerous?
It's an adventure.
I don't know that we do this, Ms. Shepherd, for pedestrian bridges, but I know the age and just the handrail-ish on that thing. It's what you guys would characterize as functionally obsolete, even if it's not structurally at issue, which sounds like it also is a little bit dangerous. But I'm pretty sure if we keep them, we've got to spend a good amount of money bringing up some of the function of it, even if the structure is okay.
I don't know, I remember my grandmother said one, and we'd run across and shake the hell out of it. And I was like that. What do y'all want to do? Y'all want
I'd say
Get some
good.
prices,
Yeah,
where we go from there.
Yeah.
Well, I got two questions for Ms. Shepherd. Ms. Shepherd, so has VDOT spoken with the folks in the area? I mean, the possum stores recently opened up there.
All the neighbors. Yeah.
And the neighbors, did you all interview Crigglesville folks with regard to how much they would use it? Is my first question. Okay.
Maybe we'll talk to
Okay.
them before that.
And then my second question is the demolition costs, if we were to go that route, does that come out of Madison County's VDOT maintenance money? Okay.
there's no grant money for this, Ms. Shepherd, being like a nostalgic type of thing for Madison?
The bridges over Madison County and all that.
No, we don't have that many left.
Is there any grant money for something like this? Or potential grant money?
No.
All right, Tracy?
There's that new department, outdoor recreation, I might be able to check.
There you go. Why don't we let Ms. Shepherd get us some costs on these structures? Both the cost for abandonment and then the cost for rehabilitation. And also we'll see if Ms. Shepherd or Ms. Gardner can come up with any kind of grant funding for doing that. Does that seem reasonable? Everybody, any other questions for Ms. Shepherd?
May I ask one?
All right.
I live on, Ms. Shepherd, my name is Joe May. I live on Whippoorwill Road, and the fellow you replaced said you were gonna start paving it, hopefully on my end first, with slurry. And I'm wondering how that project is coming along. I don't have a route number for it. It's Whippoorwill Road. Yes, ma'am.
I hate to put you on the spot, but we've got you, so we'll try this.
And if I know Joel, he warned you about Joe May.
I am persistent. Tenacious.
Shepherd, we'll get Joe May's information, forward it to you, and we'll also give you yours to him, see if y'all can get in some communication.
Very eager.
Yep. Thank you, Ms. Shepherd.
Yes, ma'am.
Um,
All right, we'll start here. Ms. Fry, how's our recruitment for some of these committees, specifically the IDA? Everybody jumping at us? Carter, you did, I thought you said you had somebody.
Yeah, I talked to him this morning and he said, yeah, he was under the impression that the application period had gone by, but I told him no, so I sent him your information. I saw him this morning, so he said he was gonna fill it out.
Amber, you have been voting?
What's that?
Until it sells. I have one. and
IDA?
possible others.
Oh, good. Doing much better than us on recruitment.
Anybody else got anybody?
Maybe I have another one.
Oh, good. Great.
I'll tell you that.
There you go.
Yeah, working out better and better. All right.
Anything else to report, Ms. Fry? All right. Ms. Murray, you got anything?
Not really. I ran some road numbers for revenue. Trying to get a total of what we would be, but we'll have to solid figures once the end of August is, but it looks like if I just do the revenue for Fund 10 for the local money, state and federal, and add back the tax money we received July and August so far this year, we're looking at, it looks like we're gonna be maybe $495,000 positive to the budget for fiscal year 20 on the revenue side. In revenue.
Good. No,
I mean, I don't have everything, I just have that, but it's okay.
Looking positive.
That looks positive, and, that's good, but we'll have to get it all together, with the expenditures and whatnot, but that looks good.
You got any questions, Ms. Murray? Brian?
Same thing, running numbers, looking good as far as personal property. PBTRA, personal property tax relief, looks like it's going to land about 32. Still working on that. That's the software system on it, shutting it down. But anyway, that's about 100%. We got a little bit. Like my club.
Yeah, we all appreciate
Yeah, I got that.
Yes, we all pick up on it.
No, but it's about 1.5% down, which is always been downward. Let's say, close it all away, we'll see in that. But, anyway, have some better numbers next month.
All right, they got questions for Ron. Ms. Barrett?
We are just welcome. We did a training last 2 weeks ago, in this room for paid EMS and volunteer rescue squads about strangulation. For those of you who don't know, strangulation is pressure applied to the outside, unlike choking from the inside. I did not know that. But what I did know is that in instances of domestic violence and violence involving strangulation, there is a much higher risk of future mortality of the victim. And there is also a higher risk of danger to law enforcement and EMS that respond. And so it is important that everybody involved in one of those situations is aware of the dynamic of domestic violence or intimate family violence, whatever we're gonna call it. And that EMS and the rescue squad are able to ask the appropriate questions, so that we do have someone that's non-cooperative for many valid reasons, when they come time to report, you may still be able to prosecute. So it was really well attended. I straightened your projectors for you because it bothered me. And it was really excellent. Jean Parrish is the forensic nurse examiner practitioner at UVA Hospital, which is where we send everyone for forensic medical exams. She did it. She's incredibly well trained, well versed. She's provided the same training for many of the other rescue squads in that same area. Speaking of projectors, I sent Jack a late email, sorry Jack, about there's money for the combined courthouse, for the 2 courtrooms, because using this webcam is really, really just spectacular. So we have had instances where there's an outbreak of COVID-19 in the clerk's office of a judge that we share a judgment. And so the judge did it. We don't really have a good way at this point in order to have court with the judge being at home or attorney being at home. And we get into kind of foster care cases, you can have 10 people in the courtroom because they've already got an attorney. And so Judge Morris, who's juvenile judge, asked us to explore it. This was able to get us some quotes. And so that is my out-of-order plug for that.
How much?
3,100.
Total.
If I did the math right, yes.
For 2 projectors.
Well, no, for 2 webcams and a laptop, that they would be put the webcams in the courtrooms and then to take the laptop. And then, but just as an update to the technology that we've added to the courtroom, it has already just been so incredibly helpful, not just to my office, but to the defense attorneys. They're able to access their calendars and make sure that those are up to date. We're able to schedule things more easily. And everybody has just appreciated it so much. So thank you for a long time. And it's getting better. We can magically project now from my computer that I bring to court. I can project it to the TVs that are already in the courtrooms. The video sound plays through the TV audio, and so it's much easier for everyone to see. There's no concern about the judge having to investigate and not being able to get it on the site. So it's one number.
How many people do you have roughly at your domestic abuse strangulation?
I think we had probably 10 or so here, I think 15 online.
Hey, pretty good.
Yeah, it was a combined in-person and virtual, which worked out far better than I had ever. And this was a really wonderful setup for that. There's a couple of details to work out, but other than that, it's really good.
You got a question for Clarissa?
Yeah, Clarissa, I've already spoken to the chairman about this, but I've gotta ask you to, instead of prosecuting this, could you defend this? We're talking about body cameras for the sheriff's department. And that's one thing. Then you got annual costs of the SIM cards, and we're gonna have to, as I understand it from you, we're gonna have to add a deputy Commonwealth attorney, an assistant Commonwealth attorney that because of the body cams. Is that right? So all in all, I mean, the CARES money is gonna pay for a lot of upfront costs, but there's gonna be a lot of trailing costs after December 30th to do this. So this is something that Madison needs, that you need, and the sheriff needs.
I have been asking for this since I took office on January of 2016.
Okay.
I think that those of y'all who were at that first budget meeting that I went to, I probably mentioned this as something that I really wanted. It's really hard to articulate how helpful they are. So we'll take domestic violence. If an officer has a body cam on, the information and his interviews with the witnesses, the victim, and the potential suspect, those all happen away from him. So his dash cam would not cover that. The statements that the defendant makes are incredibly important in order to prosecute him. Statements that the victim makes can be incredibly important. The statements that if they happen to overhear something that they say to EMS, those are statements made in seeking medical treatment, so those can be an exception to hearsay. And it really turns out that it really matters what people say.
Mhm.
You know, and so if I hear something, you know, this happened in a case that I was talking with the defense attorney today. The deputy's like, yeah, there's a confession, and then I go and I listen to the audio and I read the report, and I'm like, well, I mean, it's like 80% of a confession. And so those words and being able to really find out those details are really important. And being able to gather evidence that we couldn't otherwise be able to gather. The body cam will get a view of the scene of where it happened. And if they say, you know, we were packing up to move, I'll be able to know where their boxes packed. Or they pulling stuff out of the boxes or they're shoving stuff in the boxes. You know, where was the doorknob? Where was it? You know, what did the room look like? You're talking about DUI. The dash cam will be able to show, I mean, these are not kind of grainy CCTV videos. These are high definition cameras. We will be able to see when the vehicle crosses the yellow line, when it crosses the line, how many times. If there's an eluding case, we may be able to see where it passes a school bus. I had an eluding that I prosecuted, well, actually I didn't, because our intern ended up getting hit by the driver, but it happened when I was in Orange, and the deputy had to go from practically Unionville all the way through the town of Orange, out past the tractor dealership, almost to the church. And you can see where it goes over the double yellow line. The deputy's narrating the speeds and everything as well, so it comes in kind of things that way. And then there's a third camera in the cage in the back of the squad car. And recently, you know, we prosecuted a case where they've been arrested by another jurisdiction. And as the person is in the back of the car, man, I never should have taken that. That's pretty good evidence. And that's evidence that we would never have access to.
Okay.
You know, this has been a really long time coming. When I started, the sheriff's office didn't have email addresses, and they didn't have cell phones.
No.
And so we are getting where we need to be. This is something that there are not words to express how excited I am about the ability of us to provide safety.
So needless to say, needless to say, in the coming years, we've got a lot of expenses mounting on sheriffs, on law enforcement, and EMS.
And prosecution from.
Right. Okay, you've defended that well.
And I'll also just say as well, this may be something that's coming down the pipe, there may be state money at some point. We just
Okay,
don't know.
all right, thank you.
All right, anybody else have any questions for Clarissa?
I'd like to ask something. How long does all this equipment last? And then how are you gonna pay to replace it?
You know the answer to number two.
Um,
I don't know, what's the last 5 years?
It lasts about 5 years. They got it when I was in Orange and I don't.
So you're hoping for another virus?
Well, no, I mean, I think it's just, at this point, I mean, quite frankly, it's just kind of the cost of doing business. That it's, I guess I might as well just embarrass myself. I had a jury trial that was a traffic infraction and it was a pro se amendment. And it ended up kind of being a referendum on whether or not the county should have dash cams. That was the driver's argument, is that there's no video, there should be video.
Yeah.
The video would show that I was right, or the video would show that they was wrong, and he was acquitted. So this is something that the citizens want. When I talk to people, they are shocked and surprised
Yeah.
that we don't already.
100%. We're one of the only counties who do not have this equipment. It's very dangerous for the sheriff's office. It's very dangerous for who's being arrested. We need this for sure.
All right. Thank you. Livingston, got anything for us?
Still working segment network, get the security entry system at the courthouse connected to regular network. Sheriff's now getting ready to put new servers in and segment their network off of county network, so we're figuring out how to tie that together. Hey, Charles. Gotta get the data requirements ready for the health department so we can begin the renovations of these buildings. It's coming in the next couple minutes. We're also talking about possibly getting out a server room there, moving our equipment out of the, it's the data stuff is moved on.
Better report than I expected. You're doing a lot of stuff. Very good. No, that was good. Good job, Livingston. Good. Anybody got any questions for Livingston? Roger, what are you doing?
Signed the contracts and PO for the door, new doors at the new door at the social services. Talked to Mike today, he's taking the second set of doors out already. The interior doors, the double set, he took those out already. Working on the sneeze guards at the courthouse, Troy's making those so that they match up with what's there, the wall and stuff. The camera system's finished at the Warmore building. We need to get, a couple of bailiffs schooled on that. Upgraded the courthouse where I had to do some stuff on the badge and I need to get that job. And, other than that, grass growing like the know, you know, getting it done.
Thank you. Question for Roger. All right, John Shearer.
Still tracking along with the virus, look at the numbers and doing what we can do to help, I guess most people know that we typically pick up about 4 or 5 cases a week, maybe sometimes less, sometimes more, but that's what EPH gets reported then by the labs. And one thing I will say is that with all the different labs reporting those numbers, you know, they try their best, but I wouldn't put a whole lot of stock in it. But what we do know is that we did, for the longest time, we've been pretty lucky. We have had an outbreak in one of our long-term care facilities. Currently, we have 12 people who are tested positive, 2 passed away. We have 1 more that's has symptoms that we are currently waiting on testing. So, for the longest time, we talked about this months ago, that they are our most vulnerable population, and now we do have an outbreak of 12 people. So 2 passed. Other than that, we're looking at the CARES funding options, and I'm updating you.
Any questions for John Shearer?
We did have a GEQ inspection at the transfer station and the closed landfill in Madison.
Good. Good. Anything unexpected?
Everything was good.
Good. All right. Noah?
I just want to thank Clarissa. The simulation training was really good. Folks enjoyed it.
What is the,
Kind of a record number of calls.
keep going.
It is.
Educational.
But, yeah, just running calls and back calls.
And call volume is up. And your trucks,
Got 2 of them ordered.
definitely on one before December 30th. The other one, I'm sure you're
Pressing like crazy.
good. Good. Tracy?
Yes, I just have follow-ups on CARES Act funding. So I'm going to talk about this now or over this.
We're gonna talk about that in a little bit. What, you not doing anything else?
Doing lots of other things, trying to recruit new IDA members.
Yeah.
I'll send that out as a reminder. You see a one-page financial form, and that's 25 pages. Basically because of what's.
Waiting before we get to something.
I'm just giving the whole, I'm doing that with the ones.
It's not really 25.
It's 25. I mean, if you have to have stuff, I don't.
It's a lot of paper.
Lot of paper.
Just go ahead and your name. Go ahead.
Anything else?
American Legion has food truck challenge. Bavarian Chef has a new Twisted Treats frozen ice cream truck, which is awesome. I can attest to that one. And then, yeah, Taste Mountain still dealing with people calling, trying to, they were still having it. And the feed store is open Saturday as well. Feed store,
17.
downtown.
All right. All right.
MJ?
Off the agenda. I know that the board had expressed that they wanted to have all bills, construction-related bills that they paid out of bond proceeds to be approved by the board prior to disbursement. We have kind of, because I didn't know about that until basically in the end of July. We had one bill on Brian's radio system. For $4,863.49, and we wait until the first meeting in September for you to be able to do. So I'm asking you for authority to.
Okay, what is this bill for?
It's the July project, radio project.
The consultant.
Yeah.
All right, and you don't have anything like paper for us?
I do.
Oh,
I mean, I don't have a copy for everybody, but
all right, I'll read fast and then I'll share with you. All right. Agree with that. What else you got going on while we're sharing?
So, I just wanted to, I think probably most people know that, this fire has been for a while, and she's our hospital person. Has, she is kind of resigned, but she's transferring to the sheriff's department effective next Monday. It actually is a resignation because she's going on to a different payroll system. She actually has to have a leave payout. We have made temporary arrangements to bring somebody in a couple days a week to help out for we're kind of a little still struggling in that respect. Another thing I wanted to bring up is something that's outstanding from Davenport is their 5-year cash flow projection. We had talked to them about trying to give them numbers that had them come at the end of August, but we couldn't get that to work internally. And they didn't want to do a rush. And one of the critical things for them to do, and this was noted before, is we had major shifts in our expenses because of all this CARES Act money. We had a different pattern for equipment replacement
and a lot of the initiatives that we've taken with CARES money will have ongoing operating impacts, especially like in EMS and it shows. All that stuff needs to be modified for them before they can really do the 5-year cash flow projections. And part of, they actually will work on the CIP replacement, so that somebody gets that question, that'll be incorporated into these numbers. I have to say, timetable wise, that's not doable for me. It's not doable at the next meeting, and I have to say, I have to go out of town for 2 days in September, the second week of September. So my recommendation is we attempt to get them done and present it to the board first. I don't think I can do it before then.
Everybody okay with the first meeting in October on Davenport?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so then the only other thing I had is, I want to emphasize that, probably the strictest rules that have come out related to CARES tax spending is related to payroll. So, anybody who's attempting to make, outside of EMS, where the rules are relatively generous, anybody who's attempting to make a claim on payroll, on CARES money, needs to be very careful about whether they need to require to do so. Especially if you're talking about a secondary effect. For example, whereby body cams, we contact tracing with them. And oh, by the way, we need an attorney to do that. And I charge the attorney's costs. I think that that's a pretty big stretch based on my reading of the rules. The rules are really, I mean, there's almost no place where the rules are stricter than on payroll. It has to be a direct.
All right.
So I just wanna point that out. And then I don't have anything else to say.
All right. Okay. All right. Larissa?
I don't think that it was anticipated that the attorney position would be in CARES. Because I don't think that it's possible that that attorney position will even exist prior to December 30th. It depends on the timing of the implementation and how long it takes to fill it, all of those things. Even if it were to be, it would only be, I think they are aiming for December 1st. Hoping earlier, but probably not.
We need to follow the law. So go with whatever we gotta do. What about, all right. One, we have this bill. Do we want to make a motion to authorize MJ to administratively pay those?
Yeah, I move to approve the Mission Critical Partners invoice 11-100 for $4,863.49.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is done. What are we doing when it pertains to advertising for a replacement?
Haven't done anything yet, I just had,
We're
our
thinking
new
about it.
temporary person just started today. So, and we had, RDA was down most of the day, so it's basically.
Plug two.
Not just.
Boy, everybody is plugging this thing
Yeah.
today. The breeze is coming for you, Brian. All right.
So we haven't made much progress in that area. And probably, I have a lot of things, the things that I have to get done between now and the next board meeting is I have to get all the sub-award agreements drafted.
How's that going?
This is not existing.
Okay, good.
So that's my big project, and then I'm also, working towards closing FY20, for the audit, in between everything else that's going on. So I have a lot going on.
Good. We need to, I'm sure you know, we need to look at this resignation and kind of evaluate the direction that we go with this department. MJ, we know, has plenty of stuff on our list. Hopefully with an advertisement and a replacement for Candace Ladderbuck, we can pull some of that stuff off and have a little bit of feel going on. You get something written up sometime.
So who resigned? We couldn't hear.
Candace Cladwell, accounts payable, and she's gone to take Terry Weaver's job. So good for her, good for her. Wish her good. All right. I missed anybody, Sean Greg, you have anything to say? There you go, that's what it is. All right,
I would like to, move around a couple things. What about if we have Mr. McGrath go ahead and make his presentation so we can get him on out of here?
do you have any problem with that? Come on up, Jim. We're glad to see you. Weird for me to say that, especially after years of. We're glad to see you.
Wait a minute, I forgot. I had my Madison pin, I forgot.
Aw.
Baltimore forever.
I need a pen.
All right, so I'm here to do my annual review of the organization, fiscal year 20 highlights and presentation of our operating budget for fiscal year 21. I would just like to make a point here. The fiscal year 20 was not all about COVID, and a lot of really good things happened organizationally this year for us. And one of the most important things was starting this year with a board retreat where our board identified priorities for the organization for the coming year. Among them were decreasing the difficulty of access to services. We hear this all the time. We are working really hard to make it easier to get into our services. A real increased need for community outreach and education. There's not a week that goes by that I don't hear, wouldn't it be nice if we had this, only for me to say, we do have that, and we do that. But we really have to do a much better job with community outreach and education. Continue to implement industry best practices and evidence-based practices, as so much of our funding is now being driven by those items. How we can demonstrate the effectiveness or efficacy of our services, and how we can increase our ability to be responsive to our communities. Trying really hard to work with all of our counties to make sure we are responsive to those practices. A couple things that are very important that did happen was we were able this year to purchase and lease the region's first sober living home. We were able, through private donations and foundation support, to purchase a home that we then leased to Oxford House. So now we have an 8-person sober living home in our region. It is the first one in a 5-county region, and by comparison, the city of Winchester has 7. So there's a tremendous need for this in our 5 counties. We are opening next month a new behavioral health clinic in Fauquier County, which will also relieve some of the burden on the Culpeper County Clinic, which is used mostly by people in Madison County. We received funding, private funding, to hire a regional opioid response director. And this position, really, they're focused on in our 5-county region. We do know the rates of opioid and drug use are much higher than they are in other parts of the state. We have lots of people working on the problem, but there's not a lot of coordination between different service providers and the different coalition groups. So Chelsea has come on board really with that focus. It's been tough. She came on in the middle of COVID, so anything with regard to this community during the time of COVID is tough. But one of the things that she was able to do first off was to apply for funding for our region to be classified as a drug-free community by the federal government. In doing so, that would bring down $125,000 of money for prevention funds for a 5-year period with an automatic 5-year renewal. So it would really help us do a much better job of prevention activities with our schools and with our communities. We were able to reevaluate our salary scales. One of our real struggles was our salary scales. We just weren't competitive in the marketplace. We were able to take care of those this year. We had a nice partnership with Mason University, where they started looking at the demographic factors and the correlation between outcomes and how effective our outpatient services were based on a variety of demographic factors. We're able to put some changes in to our operating procedures for that. We began a medication-assisted treatment program in the Fauquier County Adult Detention Center. Why this is so important is we know that the rate of overdose for someone being released from jail is about 250% higher in their first 2 weeks than other individuals. We now have clinicians right in the jail. We can start treatment as well as medication. So people are coming out of the jail on medication. They are then able to soft handle that person directly to us, and we don't lose them in that time until release from prison. With private donations, we renovated our office lobby. We are expanding our peer services because we know that is one of the best ways we get people into services. They don't want to hear about situations. They want to hear from someone who has experienced the same thing as them. Something that means nothing to anybody, but is a really big deal for us is we achieved organizational compliance with home and community-based services waiver. I won't say anything more than that. It was a lot of work for us. We expanded our permanent supported housing program. We've doubled it in size this year. Permanent supported housing is a voucher program for people who have been unstable in housing. So it's a combination of housing voucher and intensive case management. Those are the people who are always homeless or repetitively being picked up by law enforcement for a variety of reasons to make sure that we are able to keep them stable and housed. We've been working with drug courts, Culpeper, and then there's the group that's working on the Orange Madison. We've expanded our LINK program to almost all counties. It's an intensive program for families that have a parent with a substance use disorder at risk of losing their children, where we provide intensive case management to keep the kids in the household, because we know if a kid goes to foster care, their outcomes in life are much lower than if we keep them home together. Additionally, it's a lot less expensive than sending kids to foster care. And we've been able to implement some additional voucher rent assistance programs. So we did all that, and then COVID hit. And the year really was all about COVID. So when COVID hit in March, we closed all of our congregate sites. We reallocated all of our staff to remote work teams. We converted our outpatient clinics to telehealth services. One of the things that we did see when we did that was our no-show rates increased significantly. However, what we also noticed is that due to lack of technology, broadband access, it became very difficult for our rural communities. And so I did my obligated pitch to increase broadband services, which I'm sure you hear at every meeting. We're also, when we closed our community in our senior centers in particular, we reconfigured all of those services to a home delivered meal program and used our transportation services to deliver those meals. So during COVID, when everything was closed, we were delivering approximately 1,300 meals every week in our community. We're able to take advantage of all the available funding relief programs, payroll protection, all those types of things. So during that point in time, we had no staff layoffs, we had no staff cut hours, we protected all 375 of our employees' jobs during this time. And we were able to ensure the financial stability of the organization during this point in time as well. And we were able to secure personal protective equipment for all of our staff. It was scary for a little while. We had, day by day at the beginning, but now we're in good shape. And none of our residential programs, none of our congregate sites, we had any transmissions of the virus up to this point. So with all that as a backdrop, the 21 budget was really challenging. There was uncertainty caused by the pandemic. There was uncertainty over potential mid-year funding reductions from the Department of Behavioral Health. And we had remote staff work teams. Additionally, we set as priorities for this year's budget a 4% increase for all of our staff, so we can continue to remain competitive. We do know our health care for our employees is still not where it needs to be, and we are at a competitive disadvantage because of that. So for the second year in a row, we made the determination to have level staff contributions for health care. We wanted to be very conservative in all of our projections because of that, in case of any potential funding shortfalls or decreases. We wanted to continue to address our capital budget needs. We have a lot of capital budget needs that have been deferred for far too many years. Conservative with staff occupancy. We limited any type of discretionary spending with the exception of information technology. So if we had any discretionary spending, we were doing bolstering our IT services. We also made a commitment to not reduce any service levels. And we also wanted to classify a few positions to meet our priorities. So this year's budget is about $27.6 million, which is about a 1.5% increase from last year. I want to absolutely thank the members of the boards of supervisors for your support. This year, we received a significant increase from our local municipalities of about $435,000. We would not have been able to do step raises throughout that money this year. We did see an increase in DBHDS, which are our state funds, of about $600,000. I always caution everybody when they see DBHDS money, that money is incredibly restricted. So we are not able to move that money to cover healthcare costs or salary increases out. So it's a very specific type program. In our conservativeness, we reduced our fee revenue by almost $1 million this year. And that's really based on the closed programs that we had, and we anticipate they won't be fully open well after the beginning of the year. And one of the other things that really helped us in this year's budget was in our aging services, we were allowed to carry over federal funds from those programs from one calendar year to the next, or from one fiscal year to the next, which typically we're not able to do. Our expenses then, you will see, again, 27.6 million. We had about a $400,000 increase in salary expense. We did add 9 full-time positions to the organization. Most of those are related to supports in our residential programs for intellectual and developmental disabilities. And like I said, we reorganized our management team to be able to meet the priorities that our board identified. And I know it's a little hard to see overhead, but I believe you have it in your thing. You can see where our revenue sources come from. I think if I remember correctly, it's about 30-something% are fees, which are predominantly Medicaid fees. You can see 26 maybe percent. Am I right, Amber?
26.
Okay, 26% are state funds, and you can see the other funds right out there. Where does our money go? As you can see, almost all of our money goes to staff salaries and expenses. We're a human service organization, it's pretty typical. And our projected delivery service outcomes, the charts that everybody hates. But what you will see is we have to report these to the Department of Behavioral Health for our performance contract. Our performance contract is we are required to present to all of our boards of supervisors, so you get the charts. The number on the left would be the total number of individuals we would expect to serve this year. The number on the right would be the number that would correspond to the number of Madison County residents. So in mental health services, we will serve about 2,000 unduplicated people, and you see about 50 of those would come from Madison County. Those would be in our outpatient. Developmental services are services to adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And again, our biggest area there is case management services. You have then the substance use disorder services. Again, you'd see about 500 people, and those are programs like Boxwood and our detox programs and those types of things. I did throw this up too. Not that we're required to report on it, but I think it's important to understand what our current prevention programs are. Those are mental health first aid, it's naloxone training, those types of things. Our prescription take-back program, I think we brought back 47,000 or 47,000 prescriptions this year. The number of people who click on our advertising campaigns for suicide prevention, the number of phone calls we receive, all that type of stuff, which is good information. Emergency services, this is our crisis services, and you will see we will have about 2,600 crisis calls this year. About 140 of those calls are from county residents. And our senior services. So we have 80 members of Madison who regularly attend our senior center. We have 50 who participate in our home delivered meal programs. And you can see, again, we're 57 who rely on us for transportation, and we have 44 volunteers. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'm getting quicker at it.
All right, first, that is the way to go through a PowerPoint presentation. That was quick. That's the way to do it. Thank you. Are you asking for any money directly today?
No, I'm not.
You're doing a lot of good stuff. That's great.
I do have a couple notes that I do think are important. There's one thing that in particular that I would like to say. It's almost a preemptive, I'm sorry, more than anything. Last week, the governor put out executive order number 70, which relates to the state hospital census. The state hospitals, excuse me, are well over census at this point in time. And I think members of the board, I believe you're familiar with the involuntary commitment, they call the TDO process. So the bed of last resort legislation requires our state hospitals to take someone within an 8-hour time frame. With the executive order that the governor put out last week, because of the state hospitals being at over census, if someone is brought to us by law enforcement who is not under an ECO order, the state hospitals will not be taking them. So those individuals will not be going to a state hospital. There is no time mandate, even if they are determined to be needing to be hospitalized. If we can't get a bed for them, we can't get a TBO order. So those members of our community are probably going to sit in hospitals for days. And as you know, neither of our community hospitals have any mental health beds. If someone is brought in through law enforcement under an ECO, the state hospitals still are mandated to take them. However, we have been told to expect delays. We have been seeing delays of admissions of 2, 3, 4 days. So we are able to maintain custody of we only have one security officer who works our crisis, so we can maintain custody of one individual. So if we are maintaining custody, your sheriff's officer, they're going to be sitting in the ERs. And again, last week we had several people who've been in ERs with law enforcement for 3 days. So we are doing everything we can. It is creating an incredible amount of friction with law enforcement and our staff. I promise you, we will do everything we can to find beds that are not available. The individuals typically that we are recommending are not individuals who are going to be placed in private hospitals. So we're relying on the state hospitals, and they are over census. I think the language has been, this is a COVID-related crisis. It is absolutely not a COVID-related crisis. COVID is a symptom that we have underfunded. There are 260 people at state hospitals ready for discharge without community availability of community services. The state hospitals are very expensive and not what we need. So I want to apologize. So if the sheriff's office comes and says, we got people stuck, we got a lot of overtime, we're ready to get those people. So any other questions I'm happy to answer?
Who else has a question?
You have a question?
Yeah, all right.
You don't anticipate making any requests of localities for a share of their care summit?
Well, we know. Now, if you have CARES money that you would like to offer up, we could spend it. I will say one of the things we had worked out with one of our counties is it's a small amount of CARES funds, but we do know our crisis calls are up. For us, business is really good. Alcohol sales are what 300%, and at the restaurants and bars are closed. So those people are ending up on my doorstep. One of the challenges, if you've not been involved with us as an organization, you don't know enough about us. So currently, we are running some ads in one of the other counties to say, it's a stressful time, we can provide these services. We're running a series of ads, and we're funding those through the CARES Fund.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say, I'm so appreciative of Jim, and the work that they're doing at Community Services Board. We are really making some really great strides. They're providing more services directly in Madison County to Madison.
It's a completely different organization.
And I just want to point out that he's down here on his own time, sometime. Normally this time of year, he's required to get a resolution from the board. And just, there's always like to hear good news, but he doesn't require a resolution.
Right, because normally the resolution approves the numbers for the performance contract, and they're not reviewing the performance contract, they're just accepting it. So there's no resolution.
If you need a resolution, just call us up. We're giving
I
out
appreciate
today. Thank you very, very much, Jim.
Anytime.
No, we really appreciate it.
You guys know where I am.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's some good news.
Mhm.
Like, that's pretty
Very
good.
positive.
All right, let's go through, Mr. Hobbs, we're down to old business, let's go through some of this codification stuff. Where are we at?
Yes, at the last meeting, you got my report on this road project. We're in pretty good shape.
last meeting, after the last meeting, we sent the package out to everybody that might be interested in it. One more staff review. There's some conversation about the new building code language that new building official has recommended. I think we know.
Just ask them. All you.
And that was the only substantive comment I've got. So I think the attorney might have a few things to say, but my hope is that you push this forward to the public hearing in September and get that the application will be completed. Go ahead.
If things go well, we will be able to have the public hearing.
Everybody, don't come on, Nelson.
And I've answered several questions from different people over time. I hope answers have been sufficient, but it's difficult when you start and stop these things. But
Proceed, I think we've been working on this, what year?
2014.
Of course.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move to schedule a public hearing on the codification project during the September 22nd meeting as proposed.
Second.
Motion made, second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. All right, Mr. Hollins, tell us about CARES Act funding. Are we just gonna walk through this again?
we can, if you like, the format of this list is similar from last time. There is some added shading on it, the shading means that we've gone through procurement, and things you do in order, the things that we still outstanding, the detail, things like, the vacuum PPE, which means not all that upfront stuff. Every line has its own story, per se. Numbers have shifted, but we'll get into that if you like. We'll focus your attention down to the yellow shading pieces. These are items that the board really hasn't had a chance to review or act on. So I would focus your attention there. But along at the middle of the page, this area that's says outside agency funding, this is what Ms. Costello was talking about when it comes to we need to develop these performance agreements, the recipient criteria and so forth. So these are still in the hopper per se in terms of we just need to straighten out.
All right, I'd like to walk through this, but I think we got it in the wrong order.
Mr. Chairman, before we do,
Yeah.
point of clarification, the public hearing on the second part of CARES, I believe, the first meeting in September. Like that is being advertised. The servitude and
All right, first meeting, second amendment, on the CARES money. Before we walk through this, I think it would be prudent to go ahead and talk about the Economic Development Incentive Grant Program. And then also talk about the revised Boys and Girls Club CARES Act request. And then we can kind of go down and knock out some of these things. Tracy, does anybody have any problems with that? Tracy, tell us about the report on the Economic Development Incentive Grant Program.
Well, we already got it up as far as having the information on the economic development page along with the link if people are interested. And I'm working with Sean and MJ on compliance issues and getting a contract done, and we've gotten an MOU done and an attachment A with CIC. We're on track to have the grants open and also have the ads in the paper as well. For August 31st, they will close on September 14th, review until 9/21, where they'll make their recommendations and then we'll look over them and Sean will also review them. And then once that's done and that disbursement is done, if we spent all the money, we spent all the money. And if it's still some available, we can talk about, if we need more clarification, if we wanted to at that point add nonprofits if we needed to, but I don't think we'll need to. So.
All right. Is everybody still good on the 150 going towards us?
Yeah, is that what we landed on 150?
I think that was what we were at.
Yes, and
Okay.
we've already got an invoice for the, admin part of that, so.
And Tracy needs some committee members. Mr. Gregg volunteered to take on that responsibility, correct?
All right.
There you go. Good luck. Tracy. You.
So, no further comment, we'll proceed with this, design contracts, administrators,
Any heartache with those?
That's good.
All right. Any other question on the economic, grant program? All right, MJ, tell us about the revised.
So just I wanna make a distinction. The program that Tracy is working with, the Community Investment Collaborative in Chicago is actually functioning as a federal contract. They are not getting, a grant award from us. So there's no sub-award agreement required with that. It's simply the contract where we maintain management control over the program and they're providing administrative services. That's in distinction to the Boys and Girls Club, where it really is their own separate program. And all we're doing is giving them money. The rules for what needs to go into an agreement with them are completely different. And so are all of the monitoring requirements. So the basic request that they made a while ago hasn't changed. They asked for $125,000 to fund a program between September and December. Now, the difference between what they were doing, what they normally do in this is they consider this program to be a totally different program than their after-school program. Their after-school program will not exist between September and December. They call this an emergency response program. It will be run from 7:30 to 5:30, 5 days a week. I think normally they were running was 2:30 to 6 p.m. It's a number of
Hey, here, speaking of this one, I think you should be good.
Have we started here yet?
No.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna start over with the contract.
No, it's just boys and girls.
This is a grant and I mean, it's their own
You gotta turn
program
it
that
on.
they're running.
Putting the light on.
Sorry.
Okay, so it's a grant that they want. They're running a new program that will replace their traditional just after-school program. They're calling it an emergency response program. It's run 5 days a week from 7:30 to 5:30. The other program, their standard program, runs after school 2:30 to 6 p.m. There will be different activities involved than what their traditional program is, and they're running an academic support center in conjunction with the public school system. They'll have virtual assignments that children can work on. And they will also put in place socially, appropriate social distancing measures. They actually want to start the program, open it up to children on September 14th, but there's a period of time before that where they want to train staff. And I believe actually the staff training has already started. They asked me, can you cover the period from like when the program actually starts? And as far as I'm concerned, I don't see a reason why we can't provide funding for a period from like the middle of August through December 30th. They put together a revised budget where they're basically saying the costs to run this program are $145,250 for 4 months. And they're asking the county to contribute $125,000 of CARES Act money towards that program. Now, it's not exactly revenue, to replace revenues because the program itself, I think, qualifies for CARES. That's the argument I would make. It's just a way of supporting it through funding.
They haven't given a number. They didn't say how many kids that.
No,
they're
I don't
able to-
have a number on how many kids. I could get that, but I
It's
did
gonna be
not.
Madison. What I have heard is only gonna be because we open it up to other counties.
This is
But
only for Madison.
Yeah,
It's only
this
for
is only
Madison. I mean, it's run in conjunction with the school board.
Yeah.
I think everybody understands the importance of this. The school has emphasized that they support it 100%. How much money are we giving them annually?
We're giving them $2,000. They've asked every year. They've asked us for 10,000, and we only give them 2.
All right.
But I have to say, I mean, this is not a matter of replacing revenues, but they have been negatively impacted on the revenue side with what has gone on because they depend a lot on special events and they haven't been able to have any. So they need a funding source for this program. But the program itself, the expenditures qualify, I think, as a CARES expenditure.
Is this not daycare? Why isn't this daycare?
Because there's an educational component to it.
So I think more to explain is that 2 days a week. So my older two, they only are going to school 2 days a week. The other 3 days, you have to find somewhere for them to be online. I do not have broadband access, nor do a lot of citizens in Madison. They are taking on this responsibility to fill in those gaps, correct?
Yeah, well,
And they'll
at
have
the
someone
times
monitoring
where
the
children
kids.
can't be physically present in school, they have a place to go where they can do their work with remote access and.
We have to find out the number, but if we can find out a number of kids under 125,000, how many kids can that serve?
The actual is 145.
145.
I shouldn't know, but I mean, does anybody have a real problem with this?
Yeah.
This is a must.
I figured there's a caveat on this daycare component down there on the tail part.
So.
I figured there's something going on with that. Is that?
With the daycare? Yeah, well, daycare do cost qualify. They don't qualify with daycare that's got an educational component. And you're saying they do, and I'm saying that there's other places in Madison that do the same thing. And
Would that be the tuition assistance?
well, then it needs to be relabeled.
Yeah.
Part of it, they're gonna be servicing so many less kids, so I'm not sure why they need so much more money.
Maybe we need to find out.
Well, I think it's so it's replacing their existing program. Their program that is in place now isn't going to be there. So it's funding for a different program at a much higher level.
Okay.
The area that they're.
And I have to say, one other thing I'll tell you is that they've gotten these proposals through almost every neighboring locality. So my guess is that there's not going to be a complaint.
$37,000 worth of gas masks last week, or last meeting. This certainly, and I was for that, and I'm frankly for this. We should get the number of how many they're serving, just for our own information. In the grand scheme of things, we know there is a need.
Yeah, I'm for it.
100%.
And then we can go from there.
They need a commitment because although I've told them, we can't disperse for any of these outside organizations. We can't disperse funds until we have executed agreements. And, if we keep pushing this back, and they are somewhat sensitive to when am I going to get the money to do this, because they have been negatively impacted in terms of their cash reserves.
Every organization that does fundraising has had negative effects. It looks to me like we have been doing the head nod method of funding everybody. I expect to be doing that here very, very shortly. That's about, what other commitment can we get until we have a contract in place with these people? None.
Yeah, I was
What else
Do we, what else you have about Boys and Girls Club?
That's about all I
All
have.
right, now, let's go backwards, go down to the yellow column.
Marissa gave us a comment on the projectors this week. All right, Madison Learning Center, and MJ chime in if this doesn't work in our favor. How much do you think these are gonna cost, Miss Lacy?
What
The washer and dryer?
washer and dryer, we priced a speed clean washer and dryer, which is commercial, at a little less than 3,500, so I don't know what it would cost us to deliver, so that we can have a commercial washer and dryer. We're currently using one that Greystone donated to us 6 years ago used. And we're doing an abundance more laundry than we have.
How much? I apologize. How much?
3,500.
All right, I apologize.
You may have any heartache with that. Does that qualify?
$3,500. Anybody have any
She's
problem?
waiting, guys.
Good.
Moving on. Yeah.
Sneeze guards that we already are buying, apparently, correct?
Roger, how much do we think those are gonna cost?
I'm gonna say probably $3,500.
Anybody have any trouble with
4 sneeze guards
the report? $3,500. Great. Boys and Girls Club, 125. Are we good? Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec
Has a request for $14,923.
They want hand sanitizers and mask reimbursement,
Heat pump system for that
house, the poorhouse up there.
That isn't the best. Future PPE sanitizer, tents. I don't know what they mean.
Oh, for like registration to hold.
They're using the tents to segregate people. It sounds good.
Sounds racist.
No, it sounds terrible.
Why would I tents?
Also, we need supplies and hand wash station and supplies.
This number probably is gonna come down a little bit. Jerry mentioned to me the other day that they couldn't get the hand wash stations. Apparently there's a rush on orders on these, so he's gonna make his own. So we should see some savings there. Anybody have any hard time with $14,923?
I do have a question, and I talked to Roger about this, about the heat pump system. Like a regular, I don't know what kind of system they have in their building right now.
Four.
We can't just.
It's a four, it's not a four.
Window.
I mean, there are certain rules about
Two
what
of
you have, for qualified CARES Act funding. It has to do certain things, like it has to improve air flow.
Oh, it's
Air
not
quality.
They're putting four
I mean, as long
windows.
as that, those criteria are there, I just.
Is everybody okay with this purchase as long as MJ goes and grabs?
Air quality, yeah.
Go stick your face in front of those air conditioners, you'll smell
Everybody
mold.
okay with that?
So Roger is the one who told me he wasn't sure that what they were planning on doing.
Oh, we'll work on them.
Ron,
MJ, go
harass Gary,
Yeah,
and get these prices down. Everybody okay with that one?
Yep.
Deputy Emergency Service Coordinator Personnel Expenses. This is for Mr. Good, I assume. He's doing a terrific job. I mean, exactly what we're saying. What kind of cost do we have associated with this? Anybody know?
I don't know what the total is, I'm not sure.
Everybody okay with using Sam Good as our redundant emergency service coordinator?
Mhm.
All right, moving on. Administration, tell us about this. It's,
Department of Labor and Industry issued new regulations that, say that we're supposed to coordinate some of our training, our PPE, we're supposed to prepare facilities, plan for this, and it's gonna take some time and effort. Not that fully evaluated, but clearly, nobody related, there are expenses. So this is, the reason it's, this bottom part is, it's, we don't have to figure it out.
Anybody have any trouble with Hobbs pursuing this? It seems reasonable.
Yes, he's good.
Non-chair, Bob, probably Roger. Got a team. All right, everybody's good. 4-H. Need $7,000. Just stay open. All right.
Just, the last meeting, it was tentatively approved, but not really. There was some question about what they were asking for.
I don't know who this
He's
is.
not, he's actually. I have not had a chance to talk.
If you need help, I will harass Brad Wells.
And other localities are contributing to this.
Yeah, all localities. 4-H is important.
Yes,
Get to
yeah,
the outside.
for sure.
All right, schools. Apparently buses is going up $4,000. 91,224. We got any trouble buying a bus?
Those buses, two buses.
Is it two?
No, they said it's 91,000.
That's one bus. The bus used to be 8. So how many buses they want? How many buses do you want? This is a crazy way of doing it.
No, they requested one.
Well, I mean, I added all this stuff up before we even started, you know, and I've come up with $443,000 yet to be spent. You know what I mean? So at some point, those two numbers will converge. So, God, if we could get 2 buses and squeeze it into this thing, but I guess we could take the buses and, you know, like we did last time and put them on the bottom of the, we'll put
What about
one
if we
bus on the
approve
bottom.
What about if we approve one bus, and then throw another bus into the mix as kind of a last minute deal?
Yeah.
So the email that Gina sent out said that we want to take delivery by 12:30. We need to order ASAP. She only, I mean, the email that she sent out only addressed one bus.
Alright.
But apparently the problem is that everybody's doing this, so.
I think it is a missed opportunity.
Mhm.
I know that they're not gonna be used very much right now. Hopefully they'll keep the miles off of them. Or want to buy 2 buses.
Yeah.
I'd rather buy them with this money than buy them with everybody else's money.
I'm all right with it.
2 buses.
We gotta save some money for Laserfish.
All right, MJ, I understand we're gonna talk about this later. What do you wanna tell us about Laserfish?
So actually, I didn't just include Laserfish, I included Laserfish, a large part of the Tyler licenses and the hardware that we.
How much do you think that is? We may have to go back on that bus.
Well, the number, it kind of depends on whether or not, so Tyler's standard agreement on licensing is that you pay 85% upfront, and then as each module gets implemented, you pay the back 15%. I did talk to Kurt today, because I need to think about this. And he said that they could bill the whole thing upfront if you want it, but then you get a question, do you want to pay a vendor upfront, you know, before delivery? My number right now, which could be like adjusted, for our best proposal is we could use up to $194,550.
You're not being
We
worried.
can do this. Does everybody have any trouble with this?
You might need to work on one.
Yeah.
I'm wondering.
We might.
All right.
Anybody have any trouble with this? I think.
Yeah, that's
hard.
If we can if we can do
Yeah.
it. Valerie is not here. Does anybody have any information on housing and utility grant programs? All right, thank you. Todd, what do you think about extra transportation transportation costs?
That's, again, that's money that we plan to spend.
Very good. I've got it on here. What about Clarissa's 2 webcams and 1 laptop for the court? $3,100. Anybody got any heartache with that? There you go.
Yeah, this list was as of this morning, I did my work on this and all that bunch, so, that's stuff's been in since then. Understand that things do trickle in and numbers do change, so this is a minimum day.
I think that's probably the most reasonable way to deal with this. I'm sure these things are just going to continue trickling in. All right. Where are we at with the Madison Learning Center and the tuition assistance? And we haven't done any work on it?
No, I mean, so another request that came in addition to the washers was potentially replacing HVAC units, which you can make the same argument, as long as it increases airflow and stuff. If I had my druthers between doing HVAC units or doing the tuition assistance, I would choose the HVAC units as long as it's around the same amount of money. And I do think, was that part of their annual budget request, or was it?
No, no,
That
it was
won't be
not.
the budget, doesn't matter whether they ask for it or not.
No, just for everybody's knowledge, I am the treasurer of the Madison Learning Center, so.
You want to address this, or would you like Ms. Lacy to?
I can tell you that at Skyline Cap, where I'm the finance director, we replaced $34,000 worth of HVACs at all our Head Start classrooms, and it was absolutely, CARES COVID related because of the clean air. So I think that 18,000 would provide about what, two units?
We have 6 of our 8 units that are 22 years old. And a couple estimates I've got is between 7,000 and 9,000 per unit. And that just was an estimate several months ago. But if we could get some and specifically increase the filtration ability.
Is that, all right, so are we asking for tuition assistance, or are we asking for HVAC systems?
I'd give them both. HVAC.
I'd like to ask for what I could get funds to help keep us open, because if I have 6 units go under, it's gonna greatly affect us, and I don't know that I can sit here and ask for funds to stay open.
All right. Anybody have any heartache with 18K for 18K for HVAC for the early learning center?
She gets you 2, yeah.
All right, let's do that.
All right, we're down to 56K by my calculation.
Right. Well,
just saying.
Noah did take his shirts off.
Yeah, thank you, Noah. Save that $90. I think we'll pass the plate around. We may be able to get you some shirts. Or one shirt. Yeah, exactly. Let's talk to Mr. Murray. All right, we've got some true up stuff for the regional jail. We don't know yet.
This is out here, they asked, like you heard Mr. McGrath said, he doesn't plan to ask, but these peripheral agencies do qualify.
All right, we've got that one. Juvenile detention, same deal. True up. CSB, just talked about that. And then land acquisition for unit emergency communication, 50K. What are we at on that?
That's, there's an idea early on that maybe we could use some of this money to fund a tower site.
That's fine, this guy.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, so we worked through this list. Everybody okay with it? Can we proceed from there? Good.
Public hearing.
Oh,
no. Very good. All right. Budget adjustment work session.
I want to keep it in front of the board, but the idea of back when the budget was adopted was that we come back and revisit this. This is nothing we really budget adjusted it for last minute. And here's money mandate, we had some financing, so the county members have no trouble with it. Right now, we've got a couple of things in play. The legislature's in session, I understand, like, in session still, in September, so we don't know whether revenues might be up or down, or the mandates. So that's always there. We have the issue of inevitable things, projections, so put a little list together to the package to what we consider when we go through this, but I just got still said, it might be out here. Before we really go lights on this school. I'm not sure the skills and fun, but good exercise. And,
So I would stress that we probably need to have a revised budget done. We can't really change, I mean, the adopted budget is what the adopted budget is. So anything that would occur outside of that has to be done something. Or you have to make other requests in the second half budget. But really, I can't emphasize enough how important it is, like the last available date that you can get that second half budget appropriated is probably the first meeting. And that's at the very least. You don't want to go, because a lot of times you don't have a second meeting in November. And by December, we could really be in danger of exceeding our budget.
If the legislature gets out in October, first October, let's say, we should be able to talk about this and then potentially, if we had to do adjustments to the second part of the second appropriation, we could at least have that all knocked out the first or the second meeting in October, and then have the appropriation ready for the meeting, first meeting in November. That'll work. That'll work. We'll try to still try as not as good as we can do. Go for everybody. Yeah. All right. Anything else on that one, folks? All right. Anybody else got any other new business, or anybody else got any other old business? How about new business? Anybody heard anything good lately? All right.
Nothing but the resolution for Terry.
Yes. Excuse me. That is right. Thank you. All right. I got it up. You want me to read? Yeah, please do. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
We got resolution number 2020-23 for Teresa D. Weaver, an appreciation for 26 years of outstanding and dedicated service to Madison County. An appreciation for 26 years of outstanding and dedicated service to Madison County, whereas Terry Weaver has served the county of Madison as the office manager for the Madison County Sheriff's Office and has served under 3 different sheriff administrations. Whereas for her years of service, Terry Weaver has performed her job with competency, effectiveness, and has generously given her time above and beyond the normal realm of employment to support Madison County Sheriff's Office, and the citizens of Madison County. And whereas Terry Weaver has always demonstrated a positive and professional demeanor during numerous county emergencies, day-to-day operations of the Sheriff's Office, special events, and been accessible to the general public. Now, therefore, it be resolved that on the occasion of her retirement from the Madison County Sheriff's Office, Madison County Board of Supervisors hereby expresses its appreciation to Terry Weaver for her dedicated service to the citizens of Madison County.
Got a motion? Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Is there a typo?
There is a
A
typo.
couple.
So, yeah, there's a few.
We're gonna do some modifications if you spell check. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Candace has big shoes to fill. Terry's done a great job for a long time. Yes?
So who's in those public?
Oh, no, hold on. Wait. Motion's on the floor. Any further discussion?
Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Boys and girls club.
So they've been listening.
Great.
The answer to the question about how many children, 60 to
60 to 90.
That's good. Thank you. All right, any information and correspondence?
A few odds and ends. Got a letter from, a graphic from the Germanic Community College about the local attendance. We had a letter from Mr. Whitby about the permission to work on Brothers Lane. Yes. They asked me to certainly do it.
Good to see the letters line still going.
Mr. Greg and I can take them through.
Yes.
That went so well the last time we did that.
Well, get rid of a lawyer if we do that.
I'm telling you.
It looked painful. Y'all did a good job, a real good job. It was awful.
What do we,
Since you bring it up, what do we have to do so we never have to do that again? Your recommendation to the planning commission was just to read the names,
and their location and when it was dated?
It really depends on the nature of the issue. I mean, candidly, I think unless we are looking at something until 2:30 in the morning, I think your better policy is to read every letter. Other things we can do, and there are any number of restrictions we can place. We can place a restriction on the length of the letter. We can insist that people have a choice. They can read their letter or they can speak live. If they speak live, there is occasionally, I think we have a 3-minute time limit. So it really depends on what the circumstances. All things being equal, and I've spoken to people in Louisiana, Pennsylvania, for 3 and 5. They think that it is always best, that the best practice is always to read the letters. And because there was some blowback about the fact that we read the letters first, most people in local government believe reading the letters first makes sense, because otherwise the letters are being read in an empty auditorium. And the other aspect of it is sometimes people will hear something in a letter and say, well, that's my point. And will not feel the need to amplify the point.
what about thank you for reaching out to all the localities. What about redoing the 3-minute like we do with public comment?
We are entitled to impose rules like that. Orange County has traditionally imposed those types of rules. One of the complaints about Orange County is it is very restrictive in terms of public comment. It requires people to reside in the county. And that, I mean, it just strikes me as being anti-democratic. But the board can set, such as some state rule, the board can set how it's going to run its own meeting.
I think we're about as open as any community would take in public comment. We'll take it anytime. I'm sorry, it's probably not the right way to do it. That's what I want to do anyway. We'll take public comment all the time. I don't care where you're from. Freedom of speech is super, super, super important. I do think that we should not give these letters more standing than people that take the time out to come to these meetings. And now this is unusual circumstances with COVID, and respect people's feelings in whichever way they want to go with it. What about going down the 3-minute path on reading these letters? I mean, we're going to hold everybody else to it. I think they should be held the same way.
Do we have to?
Saying the best standing is to read.
Probably.
I think that's.
It's never been done before, ever.
You do read, you have read letters.
Yeah, it's rare.
Nothing like that.
Nothing like that,
Yeah, but they've never, the boards have never done
And I
that.
think it's very
Yeah,
rare to
I
have
know,
something like that.
Obvious comment is
1 or 2 letters, no big deal.
Yeah,
like 75, what do we have?
151 pages or something. When you said you were about done, we're looking at inches in the
Stack, and then it was like it just went on for another hour and a half.
Some of them were single space.
Yes. That's amazing. Y'all did great. Don't want to put it at 3 minutes.
I'd say we have to do it.
Or do we do a word limit? Because you could read slower than Sean read.
Maybe he was fast.
What is it?
I am slow.
So Pete, that one will not hire me as an auctioneer who says I read too slow.
500
What do we need to do to amend?
Well, we will need to amend our bylaws, and then whenever we advertise these things for public comment, you know, and I think Mr. McGee may be onto something in terms of being a word.
And the one thing I
Like an
think,
essay, like a 500 word limit.
so we could also follow it up, we could make a motion as a board. I move that we enter all of these public comments into the record and vote on it as a board.
But the only ones that will be read are at the meeting are, 15 words or less or whatever.
Yeah.
Word limit.
All right, what do you want to do? Or are we just gonna make up an arbitrary number?
250 words is 1 page roughly.
I didn't use Courier.
Is the planning commission working on this?
Yeah, 1
No,
page.
Mary?
I'm getting this from an
They're
expert.
not.
How many words?
Yeah, we got newspaper.
How many words, single space, you go on the page?
Really varies.
It's very high.
Mine are 500.
500,
Letters.
500, there's a,
You got a number,
Single space.
500 words, 3 minutes.
I don't know that you can read that in 3 minutes.
It's 500 letters, you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, 500 letters.
My max word count is 500.
500 letters.
500 words. Do you want to read 500
Letters or words?
Mr. Chairman, if
you wanna research this?
rather than researching this on the fly in the auditorium,
Short it down to a tweet. 140.
if I might reach out to other local
Do that.
governments.
Come back.
You Google it too.
Come back.
See if anybody else
You
reads
did a
it.
very good job.
See if any other county.
All right, hold on. Everybody. Go ahead.
Check around locally and see if any of the other counties do it, or do they just read them into the minutes and not read them out loud?
I'll check that.
Can you come back with a recommendation on word count, time, and the mechanism in the bylaws to change this, so we don't have to do that ever again? Even Kevin said that he's used to this, and I could tell Kevin even was, this going on a little long.
30 hours.
All right, good job. Any other information, correspondence? Public comment? Public comment? Anybody? All right, we do have a closed session, so.
I move that the board convene in a closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Sections 2.2-3711A7 for consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to the A, opioid litigation, and B, potential litigation involving the Crystallis LLC development, which such consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body, and 2.2-37A29 for the discussion of the terms or scope of public contracts involving the expenditure of public funds where discussions in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the board related to the negotiations, and A, financial software vendors, and 2, the Madison County Rescue Squad.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same
Did
sign.
we get a second?
Yeah. All right, let's take 5